Mr. Melvin Yong.
Mr. Deputy Speaker, I stand in support of the bill. The proposed measures to provide SCDF officers with clearer legal powers will aid the officers in their day-to-day operations. However, I do have some questions regarding some of the proposed measures. First, I welcome the move to provide SCDF officers and providers of emergency ambulance services with explicit legislative powers for their day-to-day operations. During an incident where time is of the utmost importance, the last thing that we can afford is for those attending to medical emergencies to hesitate or have their hands shackled by the uncertainty of the lawfulness of their actions. Under the bill, SCDF officers attending to medical emergencies will be allowed to collect the fingerprints and other personal identifiers of unconscious patients. This will allow them to quickly obtain the necessary health information in order to administer the appropriate medical treatment on-site or otherwise. I'd like to ask the Minister how this would be operationalized. Would officers have a mobile device that can access such sensitive information remotely? And how can we safeguard this personal data? Due to the protection conferred upon SCDF officers, the bill proposes to criminalize any unauthorized production, sale, distribution, and use of SCDF uniforms and insignia to deter abuse by impersonators. While I agree with the intention of this measure, I'd like to ask if there had been any past cases of impersonation of SCDF officers, and if so, what were the intentions of the impersonator to do so? Would the Ministry be open to consider authorizing some vendors, such as those operating in the Beach Road Army Market, for example, to sell SCDF uniforms to officers who can prove their identity on site? Mr. Speaker, the bill also proposes measures to strengthen the disciplinary framework for Home Team officers. Under the bill, it is an offence for Home Team officers to refuse to undergo medical examinations and treatments. While I can understand the need for this measure to avoid situations where officers refuse to go for such medical examinations or treatments despite the possibility of exposure to health hazards, I am puzzled as to why refusing dental treatments would be classified as an offence. Perhaps the Minister could elaborate on what are the examples of dental issues arising from exposure to health hazards, and if there had been any past cases that have compelled the Ministry to designate such non-compliance as an offence. Mr. Deputy Speaker, many of the proposed measures in the bill applies to the SCDF Volunteer Corps, also known as the Civil Defence Auxiliary Unit, or CDAU. The CDAU was established in 2006, and the current pool of volunteers consists mainly of ex-NS men. I'd like to know if the SCDF has sufficient CDAU volunteers today, and if the scheme can be open to first-generation PRs who may not have served national service, but are still keen to contribute to our civil defence. With that, Mr. Deputy Speaker, I support the bill.